So I have a funny story to share with you this morning. Over the weekend, I sold a motorcycle. And the motorcycle had been sitting for a while because, it's a dirt bike, and I had purchased it for my daughter to learn to ride and for grandkids ultimately. And for me, unfortunately, here in Nebraska, there's just not many places to ride. And so it was a real hassle to be able to take the bike out. Anyway, long story short, finally decided to sell the motorcycle and found a buyer. They drove 2.5 to 3 hours to get here and looked at the bike. Before that, I had checked it over, made sure that things were working reasonably well. I mean, it's a 20-year-old bike, and these bikes tend to hold their value really good. And so when the buyer came, he didn't ride, but it was for his son. And I started up the bike. Everything was going well, and so he bought it. And that evening, after he got home, driving 3 hours back home again, he texts me and he says, "Hey, what was the trick that you used to get this bike to run properly?" And he explained that as soon as they go past about a quarter throttle, the bike starts to bog down and die. And obviously, we relate to this as we sell cars. Your heart sinks as soon as somebody complains because you think, man, did I do something wrong? Did I sell them a car that doesn't work? And you don't know what the issue is, but you really want to sell somebody value and get good value back for it. And in this situation, something was happening. And now it wasn't like he could just come and say, "Hey, here's the bike. Can you take care of it?" He's 3 hours away. So I tried to communicate with him as to ways, thoughts that were on my mind, but I'm not a mechanic, and he admitted that he's not a mechanic. And I suggested that it must be something very simple. The bike's been sitting, it had run well in the past, and as he had seen when he bought it, it was running well when he bought it. Anyway, he said that he was going to overhaul the carburetor the next day and take a look for things. And the next day he texts me and says, "My son rode it for probably about 3,000 miles today. The bike is running well." So I asked him what happened. What did he do? How did he figure out what the issue was? And his response was, "I hate to say." I thought, what? Why wouldn't you want to share with me what you did? And then very quickly thereafter is he said, "I took the carburetor apart. In fact, I took it apart 5, 6, 7 times, and I can put this thing, take it apart and put it together again in my sleep now." But none of that solved it. And as I was on my last legs trying to figure out what was going on, he says, "My father arrived, and he says, 'Do you guys realize that you've been trying to run the bike with the choke in the wrong position?'" Meaning they had it on choke instead of off choke. And he put the choke in the right position. Everything was fine. In the meantime, though, and here's the point to the story. In the meantime, I was feeling bad. And probably like so many of us in the car business, I was thinking, man, am I going to have to give the guy a discount? There's an emotional side of it where I'm feeling badly and I'm trying to figure out, how do I solve this? He lives so far away. I can't just simply say, "Bring the bike back, I'll figure it out," because I don't have a service shop either. And I don't really want to give him a discount because we don't know what the issue is. And it is an older bike. It's like any used car. There's going to be issues. It's not brand new. We shouldn't be trying to make it brand new. So I think there's some learning elements out of this story that I would like to share with you and reinforce for what you're doing today in dealing with customers that aren't happy. Because in the beginning of this, I could sense from the text that the customer was not happy. And he was a little bit frustrated, never said it. He did not, though, to his credit, say, "I want a discount." Because if he did lead with that, it would cause me to wonder what his motive was. Was he complaining at a distance and there's no way for me to figure it out and I would just succumb to his wishes? Or did he have reasonable a reasonable complaint or frustration or issue that needed to be dealt with. Anyway, there's three things I would like to reinforce out of this story that came to mind this morning. Number one, people deserve to be made whole, but they do not deserve to profit from issues. Let that sink in. You have a responsibility when you sell somebody things to make them whole. They bought something with a certain understanding. And we have a responsibility, no matter what the issue is, whose mistake it was, whatever. We represented a product, and that person paid good money for that product. And they deserve to be made whole. And that means either fixing the issue, regardless of the cost, or taking the item back and refunding the money. When we make mistakes, we've got to own them. And if the issue was a mistake, we've got to own that. But the second part to that is they don't deserve to profit. So people that complain about mistakes and I had all this hassle and now you need to give me thousands of dollars to appease me, reasonable people don't demand discounts. And so when people lead with the request for a discount, you've got to ask yourself the question, is what they're asking reasonable? But reasonable people don't lead with discounts. So what is their ultimate motivation? Are they trying to take advantage of me? And unfortunately, our reputation in the marketplace as car dealers, it's challenged, right? We know that. And there's a lot of people that want to take advantage of that. But if that is where they're coming from, I think you need to stand your ground, because reasonable people don't demand discounts. And secondly, do you really want to do business with unreasonable people? And remember, as Americans, we say we don't negotiate with terrorists. And if somebody is demanding a discount and is then going to say, I am going to put something on social media, etc., you got to be very careful of that. Because if you run scared of what other people are going to do, that is going to affect your behavior during the sales process as well. And I think during the sales process, we can feel when somebody is the kind of person we don't want to do business with. And we should stop and not sell them when those issues arise and when we feel it. So remember, reasonable people don't demand discounts. Don't do business with unreasonable people. It's only going to be extra headaches. Regardless of whether they buy today, it's going to be issues in the service department in the future if they ever really come back for service.